Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is Game Plan 2022. With me in studio, I beg your pardon, is Titus Khamala, who's the MP for Lurambi. We're hoping to get Kuria Kimani, the MP for Molo, to join us later on in this broadcast. Once he does that, we'll be engaging him on, or rather the two legislators on Ruto's legislative agenda. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. A pleasure to be here today.
Happy that you're here. The president, in his inaugural speech, and I'm sure a lot of Kenyans are watching, and there's some issues that probably they hoped could have touched on. How do you gauge his speech, his inaugural speech?
President Dr. Ruto, the speech was precise, it was short. I listened to him, and I would say that one of the things that we were very key on, like myself, is the area of the NGCDF fund, because for a member of parliament, what matters is what can you do for your people for 5 years. And you see, many times we have to lobby, going to government offices, going to ministries to get electricity for your people, to get a road, is not a walk in the park. It has so many challenges. So when you have your own kitty, there are a few things you can do which can help your people in your 5 years. So I'm happy he was able to touch on that. There are other things like the bottom up and different things that he was talking about, how he can make sure that the common people are able to put food on their table. He spoke, one of the things that I really would say was good was the Kenya Revenue Authority. And saying, no, we don't need to have Kenya Revenue Authority. We need to have something like Kenya Revenue Services, because the KRA has become like a killer to very many people. When you hear about KRA, they don't have what I would say a customer care. We should develop a system, and I'm happy for the president because he knows that. No, we should develop a system whereby KRA and the Kenyan taxpayer are friends. There should be some, what I would say, customer care, whereby the Kenyan feels obligated to pay a fair share of that tax. And also, one of the good areas that I felt it was good was we don't tax the trade, but go for some huge rich people who don't want to pay a fair share of what they have. We have so many people with so much money that they hide. They don't pay tax off the money they have. They pay a little bit. But then you find these small scale traders, the medium scale traders in there are the people that are really burdened. Actually, the people that are driving our income, those people that are putting money in the Kenyan treasury may not really be the super rich of this country. But those people who own a bookshop, those people who own a small company, those people who build 1 road, 2 roads in a year, those are the people that are really, KRA is on their neck every day. So that was something good that he spoke about KRA, because, and I borrow from Mama Samia from Tanzania, the president of Tanzania. She said, let us not burden the few that are paying taxes, but let us widen. Why can't we make it broader? Why don't we make more people to be in business, more people to work, so that we have more people paying a fair share of their taxes?
And Mheshimiwa, you're talking about the focus on the mamambogas, the people, as you put it, the people who own bookshops and the common man. The president campaigned on that platform. The hustler narrative dominated his campaigns. Yesterday, an issue of concern, we saw the president holding high-level talks with the big corporations in this country. In as much as there's that focus on that bottom of the pyramid everyday person, from where you're sitting, don't you think there are people who will be wondering why he would interfere, so to speak, with the operations of such big companies? And don't you think that would cause some concern for some investors?
I don't really want to react from speculation or from Munene, how we call it Munene. But from the grapevine, I hear that whatever Safaricom was doing yesterday was already in the pipeline.
Okay.
It was something they were working on even before the election.
Okay.
And it has got nothing to do with what was being done yesterday, because it was something that had been worked on to ease the burden. You see, once you ease the burden on customers, then you open what Samia says, Suluhu, she says, kufungua, kupanua ulingo. You know, you widen your scope, whereby you can net more people, because the more people you have, then, like, you know, slashing into half the maintenance fee that is paid on those people who have Fuliza, and even me, I Fuliza. And also, like, those who Fuliza 1,000 can go scot-free on 1,000 shillings. So I think, I don't want to think he's interfering, because from what I heard, it was something that, you know, that was there before. Maybe I would say he just took advantage of something that was already in the pipeline. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And I think at this juncture, it's just good to remind our viewer that you can be part of this conversation by texting us live on 22047. This is GamePlan 2022. Our Twitter handle is at TV47KE. Mine is at Eric_Munene. Back to you, Mheshimiwa. As when I was starting the show, I mentioned that there are some things a lot of Kenyans probably thought the president should have touched on. There's the issue of the CBC. There's a lot of confusion before we fully transition to that new curriculum. He didn't touch on that. There's the issue of insecurity. Turkana, Pokot, just the other day, we lost some officers in those areas. Why was that? And
I said, as I said, that Dr. Ruto, His Excellency, the president, was precise. He was short. And you know, I am not a member of the Kenya Kwanza.
Yes.
I am from the Azimio. So
side of
I may not really understand the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. I'm not able to really dig into their manifesto and say, this is what we plagued, and this is where we are, and this is what we are planning for the people. But the speech was precise. It was very short. In fact, it ended quickly, by the way, because we are used to a very long speech. But what you are bringing here is very important. It's very, is something that we need to look at. Indeed, those areas that you have mentioned, security, number one, cost of living. You know, before we look at what I would say, discussing the economic empowerment or the economic revival, we need what we could say like immediate measures. There are some things that need immediate attention. For example, the cost of living.
Yes.
Yeah, because maybe Kenyans were expecting the president will touch on the energy, and maybe I opened my ears so wide to hear what he wanted to say about energy, and it was gone. So there was nothing being offered in terms of energy, yet the cost of bills, the KPLC, it is killing manufacturers. It's horrible. And so there were pertinent issues that needed to be discussed. And he put it clear. He said, hey, I'll be talking to you. You know, this is the beginning of talking, and I'll continue talking to you. But one, the area of CBC has been a very big concern for me. Let me just be honest here. We would have loved to hear it being talked about today, because the future of our children, especially their education, is very key to us. Number one, and I wish the Honorable Member of Molo would have been here, because I'm sure he's from the Kenya Kwanza.
Yes, we're hoping he'll be joining us.
Yeah, I will be able to prop him up, you prop him up, and we have a better engagement. The thing, when we talk about the CBC, this CBC thing has been a thorn in the flesh of parents. People don't even know what it is. And let me tell you something. Amina Mohammed, Dr. Amina Mohammed was the CS for education. And she raised a red flag. She said, this thing, we are not ready. It's not going to work. We need more time. We need to consult. We need more stakeholders to come on board so that we can have a holistic discussion on what CBC is going to be and how it can be put in place. You know what? She was ejected from the ministry. They removed her.
Was her removal as a result of opposing the implementation of the CBC?
Yes, and I can go on record. She was removed because she raised a red flag on a system that the establishment thought it was supposed to be there. So literally CBC was forced under the throats of Kenyans when we didn't even know what it was. And can I just tell you something?
Go ahead.
As we are talking today, CBC is an emergency. I mean, we need to discuss CBC before we hit January because one, the teachers are not ready. The parents can't afford. Just for example, a layman, I'm not a technocrat. My child has been going to this primary school. He's just been walking for about 1.5 kilometers to go to school.
Okay.
He has to transition to a day school, which is a junior high, which is 4 kilometers away. I've been struggling to pay lunch for this child in this school. I can't afford even lunch money. Now I have to pay a boda rider every day to take this child to another school just to go to junior secondary school when this child would have just continued in this school. So we did not put in consideration that we are not we are not America. We are not Europe. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the classrooms. Our teachers are not trained enough. Our teachers have not. In fact, we have programs like TPD, TPAD, things that you just can't even understand what they are. And teachers have to pay money in the program even to train. So it would have been wonderful if the head of state would have tacked on the issues to do with CBC, because honestly, what I would say, private schools are more prepared than public schools. So it is an issue that he would have said something. And when you come to insecurity, it's terrible. We have a lot of insecurity. Even as I'm talking, in my own town of Kakamega, because I'm a member of parliament of Kakamega town, there's rising insecurity. People stabbing, robberies, killings. Then you see what happened in Turkana. Honestly speaking, we would even have wished that our flags would have been flown half-mast, because when you look at the number of officers that were gunned down, those are our sons and daughters.
Yes.
Those are not just people where you think 8 police officers have been killed and a former CEC of the Turkana County has been killed, and then we just say it's normal, such a police officers, and those are gallant GSU officers, you know. And so those are some of the things we would say, hey, even before the speech would have gone on, we would have said, wait a minute, can we even observe a minute of silence for our fallen soldiers? Because they were there.
Yeah. And
something has also to be done, because I am from Kakamega. And it's amazing that we have a police post. And I've been thinking, I was thinking, if this CDF, and that is another topic, if CDF is not taken away, perhaps I can use some of that money to equip some of the police posts and stations that I have in my constituency with vehicles. Because how are these guys going to handle security issues without any form of transportation? Okay. So you find that if there's an issue on the other side, the police officers have to call a border guy. So you'll find 3 police officers on a border going to in combat with the guys that have a Land Cruiser. So that was also an area that needed to be addressed.
Well, Mheshimiwa, today the president talked about a very important issue. He talked about the issue of recurrent expenditure and development expenditure. In fact, he's saying that around 900 billion shillings was to be used for development and recurrent expenditure. On the issue of recurrent expenditure, he says that is not sustainable, proposing budget cuts to ministries so that the country can save at around at least 300 billion shillings. Don't you think he was addressing the people who are actually supposed to bring out Kenyans from that hole, the 900 billion shillings for recurrent expenditure? You are the guys responsible. A lot goes into your salaries. We've had MPs already complaining about sitting allowances in the plenary. Don't you think he was just trying to tell you guys, you know, look, what the SRC has already proposed, I think that is sustainable.
I will speak this in two angles. The first angle that I'm going to take is, number one, when you borrow, even in your own home, and you might have to manage economics, and I would say, if I have to define economy, what is economics? It reminds me of when I did the economics as a unit in the university. Economics is where you are trying to put to use what you have. You have something that is minimum, but you want to use it in the form that it's in. You know, you can't stretch what you don't have. So that forms the basis of economics. So we're looking at our economy, and when we talk about salaries of members of parliament and the earnings and all that, that is not a solution. The solution is to cut down the big government spending. And I think Dr. William Ruto is driving towards that. That's where he's going. Because, you know, even in your own home, if you have to borrow to pay for the salaries of your domestic workers, then you are in a financial shit. That's what I would say. You are in a shithole financially. You cannot borrow to pay a salary of your domestic worker. So, you know, we are at a sorry state, and I don't want to condemn the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He did his best, and we wish him well in his retirement. But let me tell you, the kind of debt and the kind of spending was ridiculous. Recurrent means money that you are spending every day to run your home affairs. This is not even money that you are putting on infrastructure development. This is money that you are, and you know, you borrow money. You borrow, you come back to parliament and say, hey, we want to open the borrowing ceiling. We need to increase it so we can borrow more money. And we are not borrowing to build a road. We have to borrow because people need to be paid a salary. That was horrible. And I think I agree with the president that we have to find a way to cut down expenditure on recurrent, so that at least we can begin to move out of the mess that we are in. Otherwise, the deficit is going to widen, and because we have what I would say domestic debt, and then we have foreign debt. Domestic debt sometimes you can negotiate, but foreign debt is where the collateral that you are put in, like I think it was it must have been Zambia or some other country that put in the airport as the collateral to the Chinese. So the Chinese came in and took over the airport. So I am thinking that salaries world over, salaries, you don't go decreasing on salaries. Salaries, you maintain them or you increase them. So, you know, you cannot come in parliament and say, we want to take out your sitting allowance. What we are spending in parliament is a drop in the ocean.
Mheshimiwa, the president has talked about the National Government Constituency Development Fund. He has said that it is there to stay. And I think to appease this other side, your Senate counterparts, he proposed the formation of an oversight fund. In your opinion, do you think it's necessary? And if it is, what's the work of the county assemblies then?
Let me say this. When we come to the NGCDF committee, NGCDF monies, and I am really well versed with the NGCDF Act, because in 2019 I was a member of the Select Committee of Parliament on NGCDF. And so we enacted an act that did a lot of changes. And I think even the Supreme Court justices have not had time to read the NGCDF Act of 2019 amended, because their ruling was based on the CDF Act of 2013. Okay. So, and then we have activists that have also gone to court on the CDF Act of 2015. But we have a 2019 in place. Many people think the senators need money for oversight because the MPs have the NGCDF money. It's very wrong, because the NGCDF is not our money. We don't use it. we are not signatories to the money. We don't spend the money, we just oversight. We propose projects. I go out there and say, this school needs a gorofa. And then the community says, yeah, we really need that gorofa in place. We need a bus. Oh, yeah, we need a bus. You know, so that money goes into, there are times when I want to go and even see the work that is being done by the CDF money, and I can't afford fuel. And they cannot get money out of the CDF fund and fuel my car. So if we need oversight money, it will just be fair for the Senate to have the oversight money as well as the National Assembly. Because according to these people, they are thinking the over 100 million belongs to the Member of Parliament. That's not our money. That's development money. And so when you talk about the Senate has a clear role on devolution. The Senate has a clear role, and each senator has to work with the governor to oversight the governor and to speak up for the governor and to make sure that that county is getting their money from Treasury. Yeah, and so for them to have oversight money is okay, to be able to go even around to see the money they are bringing to the county, is it accountable? Is it going is it being used prudently, with prudence? That's what I can say. And so when you talk about members of the county assembly,
yes,
members of the county assembly have a defined role. These are like members of parliament for the local assembly.
And I agree with you, Mheshimiwa. I know it's in the constitution. My question was, do you think it was necessary really? Because if it's oversight, they can perform that work. And we've seen them impeach governors, saying, you're not working as it's supposed to be. And we've seen them working quite efficiently. This issue of Senate now being given an extra fund to help them oversight county governments efficiently, that was a question. Do you think really it's necessary?
I think it is necessary because the senators have a defined role in the Constitution. So their work is cut out. Of course, they have to oversight the counties, but also they are in the Senate in Nairobi. And they may be dealing with issues of the county government from Nairobi. And here, when they are in Nairobi, they will also travel to their county to go and deal with those issues in the county. And so I think this is just a form of facilitation, to facilitate them as senators. And also, maybe the thought might have come like, we don't have any money, the MPs have CDF. And I think if that is the thinking, or that is what informs, then I would say that's a wrong direction to take. But I would say there would be no problem if their office is funded for them to carry their mandate as senators, because apart from the salary, which they get and which we get, and maybe a mileage claim, and you had SRC has taken out all these things. So you're left with a salary there. And one of the things that people don't understand, when they see 710, thousand, they say, wow, the member of parliament or senator is earning a lot of money. They forget that we are taxed at 30%. We members of parliament and senators, we are some of the most loyal taxpayers of this country, because every month, you take 30% of 700,000. It will tell you how much I'm giving. I'm giving a lot of money, over 200,000. So that money is already reduced. But you see, when Munene looks at the 700, he sees it, and then he forgets the number of funerals I have to fund and all these problems. So for the Senate, I would say there would be absolutely no problem if their office is funded for oversight. But then the same should be duplicated in the National Assembly, because we are equally oversight.
On top of the CDF.
But I've said CDF is not our money. We are not. We don't even get.
It's also
fuel out of CDF.
I believe that fund that is being proposed is also not going to be the senators. But the reason I'm asking this is because probably this is going to snowball. MCAs are also going to ask for their oversight fund as well, and everyone will be oversighting everyone. But be as it may,
it's a drop in the ocean. Do you know where the elephant is when we talk about that? What I would say, misuse of money and improper spending and spending without prudence. It is not even in the National Assembly. what the National Assembly and the Senate we are handling is a pin drop in the ocean.
Mheshimiwa Deputy President, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
President William Ruto named his cabinet. He unveiled his cabinet this week. Azimio la Umoja has complained, a section of Azimio la Umoja has complained, saying that the cabinet does not reflect the face of the country. There have also been some concerns that some of the people mentioned, or rather named by the president to help him realize his agenda until 2027 are not qualified for those jobs. And I want to hear your opinion on that. What do you think about that cabinet?
Before I get into that, I just wanted to tell you where the big spending is and where there's the problem.
Go ahead.
And you remember where President Uhuru Kenyatta said that every day we were losing a certain amount of money. I think he talked about 3 billion or something like that. Yeah, and that was huge monies, and that was a statement from a desperate president who was cornered and who was unable, like if we had cartels, these cartels had really gotten hold of him, and all he was to cry out. Let me tell you, I pray that these men and women that the president has brought in the cabinet will be good people, because the last cabinet was a mess. And one of the people that I just really want to appreciate in the last cabinet is Dr. Amina Mohamed. She was a good minister. And when you saw her fighting with Nick Mwendwa, it was about money, because she couldn't withstand to see these billions flying through the window all the time. But let me tell you, the executive is where there is wastage. But now they try to hide in the legislature, so that because we are the easy prey for us to be paraded before Kenyans, that these are the people, the MPs who are eating your money. But wananchi do not even know that paper, a ream of paper in some of these ministries is procured at 1 million shillings. They have no idea. That's where the rot is, and that's where our problem is. Minister of Interior, I pray that Professor Kindiki will do it differently, because that is where we lost billions and billions of shillings. So we can come back to your other topic. About the cabinet.
Yes.
And I would say, you know what? I always believe we give people a chance.
Yes.
Yeah, you give people a fair chance, because you cannot judge a book by its cover. One of the things is going forward, we must be a country of the rule of law. But the Constitution is clear that you are not guilty until proven guilty. You know, if you've been taken to court and you've been charged, you've been sentenced, then you are just like what we saw with Governor Songo. The courts kept saying you contravened Chapter 6 of the Constitution. You failed the integrity test, and so you cannot be a leader. And so, because you've gone to the last court, but you see, if people are still having what I would say litigations in court,
yes,
they have not been charged, or they have been charged at a lower court and they still have an option to appeal. You cannot say these people are guilty of an offense. And I think maybe that is what informs some of these people to be picked, because our Constitution leaves that Pandorama box open for that to happen. But if you go to other countries like the US, and you go to other European countries where they have come of age with democracy, you will not even be anywhere close to a position. And I pray that maybe someday we get there. But now let me look at it on a positive note.
Okay, yeah.
I like the choice of politicians in the cabinet, because the last cabinet we had of President Uhuru was a horrible cabinet. These were people that were big-headed. In fact, I remember in 2020, I released a video on impunity, and because the impunity had just come up to here. And I said, some of you are in high offices. One of these days you will leave. Some of these things you are doing, the person protecting you will not be in office forever. that thing was really, it was viral. It was a viral video that went around.
And they wouldn't want us to get to the details because they're not here to defend themselves.
Yes, I know. What I wanted to say about the political appointees, like today, if I go to Senator Murkomen's office, I say, Minister of Roads, this Bishop Khamala from Lurambi, I have arrived. My road C41 is giving me trouble. It's impossible. You know, number one, as a politician, he knows Mheshimiwa is in trouble. These people are seeing Mheshimiwa as the one with the solution. So the political leaders that have been appointed have a heart and a soul. They do understand the issues of the grassroots. They have a better understanding than technocrats. Because you see, these technocrats are plugged from the corporate world, and then they are brought in as cabinet ministers. When you go to them and tell them that I have water problems in my constituency, they're clueless. They don't even understand.
Amina Mohammed was a technocrat.
Yeah,
she is a technocrat.
She's a technocrat, yes. She's a technocrat, but I just exempted her a little bit because of all the CSCs I try to go to, she at least would open her door and I will talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to look at some of the feedback that we're getting here. Kenya Andes is saying, did I lose it? Oh, there it is. Thank you, T47, for hosting my MP. I believe that is one of your voters. And then there's Victor Amudavi who says, getting my MP well, Evambwa, Lurambi, Kakamega. And then there's also Eunice Mwendwa. Now, this is not about the president's legislative agenda. This is quite political. Why are leaders in Azimio airing their dirty linen in public? You want to try that?
Maybe I missed. Is it about the Babu Wino?
Of course, these are things that have been discussed online, and a lot of Kenyans are seeing them.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't understand why Eunice Mwendwa would ask that. Definitely.
Definitely. I think just politicians do what they do. Politicians talk, and sometimes politicians cannot tame their mouths. A few of us who have come of age, sometimes we are very careful what we say, but it's just normal. Azimio is a new coalition, and we are getting in parliament. It's a place of interest. People are looking for positions. So I would say Babu and Kaluma and the jabs back and forth is what I would say teething problems. Yeah.
Who do you think forms the majority in parliament, Mheshimiwa?
By law, it is the Azimio. By law. By law. It means because this is a law we passed. I was a member of the 12th parliament. And before we came to the end of the house, we did the amended law, or the Elections Act. So we did an amendment, and we factored in coalitions, the time frame when you can end a coalition and when you can depart from a coalition. And so after the election, you cannot depart an election before 3 months. You have to stick there. You have to be there. So when we look at all the coalition, even when you look at Mutua, Governor Mtua's party, Chap Chap, legally it is still in Azimio. Even PA, legally it is in Azimio. So looking at the member of parliament we have in the National Assembly, then legally Azimio has the majority. But let me tell you, Kenya is politics. And people say politics is about interest.
Yes.
And in my country, in my home country of the Luya nation, we have what we call the termites. The insects that jump up, we call them in our language tisua. And those tisua, we have a mafuetere, we have wefurunda, we have CCC, all kind of categories. In politics, people are looking at an anthill that the termites are going up. If this, like if we had Baba announced as president, again we'll be having the same problem. We would have had troops of people trooping to come this side. But now, because it was Dr. Ruto, people have gone there. So I would think that we are looking, we are going into some form of a drama Tuesday next week, when Azimio will go and sit on the majority side, and Kenya Kwanza will also be trying to sit on the same side. I wouldn't be surprised to see if people will be sitting on top of each other, trying to outdo each other. But then the speaker has to give a ruling. But if we want to be a country of rules, honestly speaking, if we want to be, and you know, you've heard it from His Excellency, the President, he has said, he would want to foster democracy. He wouldn't want to kill opposition. Yeah, from his own words, he wants to see a vibrant opposition to provide checks and balances. In fact, he said he would wish that the standing orders are amended so that we have the official leader of opposition, whereby that office is there and the opposition leader is vibrant and is taken care of by the government so that there can be vibrancy. But we cannot do that if we still offend the same law. You know, we can't be a country that is saying we want the rule of law, then we turn back on the same. Yeah, because people want to switch allegiance, which is okay. It's okay. Even me, you know, I'm very close to Musalia Mudavadi, my great friend. There I am in ODM. I switched parties a few months to the election. His Excellency the President is my personal friend. We even hugged and greeted today. He's my great friend. But then if we want to foster democracy, I must be able to help him by blowing a whistle, saying that this is not happening right in your government. And that's not meaning that I'm demeaning him, but I'm simply helping the government run, because at the end of the day, he's in the executive arm of government, I'm in the legislative arm of government. We are all serving Kenyans and we are looking at service delivery. So if we go by what is legal, by law, then Azimio is the majority. But from the shenanigans and what is happening right now and politics, your guess is as good as mine.
Mheshimiwa, you're saying the president is your personal friend, and today he talked about bringing to the House a piece of legislation that will help his Hustler Fund agenda sail through. He's also talked about the formation of that oversight fund that we just talked about. As his personal friend, if he's watching right now, what pieces of legislature would you want him to prioritize to serve Kenyans better? You've served in the 12th Parliament. Yeah, what do you think should be prioritized in order to serve Kenyans better?
I think, number one, you touched on one area that is very key, education. That CBC and where our children are going and the kind of... we have so many unemployed youth. Many of them are coming from universities every year. And so to regularize the education sector, bring legislation that will help us do, look at CBC, do away with it or reform it. You know, he said he'll bring in a task force. That is a big priority. Number two, in the agriculture sector, because we know we need to mitigate the challenges that we are having. We need to mitigate. Mitigation means we need a solution like right now. We have these challenges and we need to address them like immediately. So what are the challenges that we are having? Insecurity is one of them. Education sector is one of them. Agriculture is one of them. Do we have any pieces of legislation that we can make? Then in the recovery of economy, do we have any pieces of legislation we can make in our, in the corporate, in businesses, things that we know we can do in the energy sector, things that take the common man and are already pinching this person, because the Hustler Fund, we've never had it. We've had the Uwezo Fund. And let me tell you, Uwezo Fund has been a disaster because it was brought in 2013 for what I would say political expediency. It was for political expediency in 2013. There was no legislation on it. There wasn't anything watertight on it. This money was given to people. And then it was supposed to be like a revolving fund. But the people never brought back the money. Like people ask me, Khamala, bring us a Uwezo Fund. I say, I don't have a Uwezo Fund. we gave people Uwezo Fund. What am I? Am I an auctioneer? How do you expect me to behave? Do I go after my voters to get the money? They won't vote for me. So this money was 18 million that was given in 2013, between 2013 and 2016. When I got in Parliament, those who had returned back the money had just brought in about 2 million. So I was able to give the 2 million. Now I am at 0. Do you think we may go into the hustler fund? If it is going to be anchored in the same way, then we have a problem. Because a political proclamation immediately after elections, you must get that political proclamation and turn it into something that is framed with policy. You anchor it with policy. It is no longer what people are thinking, hustler fund. I am a border man. We're just going to have money in family bank that will be brought there. We'll line up and everybody will get a share of the money and go home. That's not what we are talking about. Are we talking about a micro banking? Are we talking about cooperative societies? You know? So priority would be, what can we do to mitigate? If we are to come up with pieces of legislation, what do we need to do, like right now? What is our need? Kenyans are paying fuel, high cost. And this is also, then we have the cost of energy. Even this electricity we're using here, I'm telling you, it's not easy for people out there. People are hungry. The cost of living is so high. Many parents can't take their children to school. We don't know what's going to happen with CBC. Are we even ready to get there? So what can we do to make legislation that can come in quickly in the next 1 or 2, 3 months so that we can see our country again robust and Kenyans breathing?
Well, thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much for that. In the interest of time, we have to end it right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And hey, before I just go, let me tell my people of Lurambi, they're great people. 178 polling stations, I won each and every one of them. They are great people, and I promise to serve them.
And we're going to invoice you for marketing yourself on our television station.
Okay. Yes.
The marketing team will be get in touch with you.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Well, and thank you to viewer for watching. That is Titus Khamala, the MP for Lurambi. We're talking about the president's legislative agenda. What should be prioritized in the 13th parliament, the pieces of legislation that should be prioritized in order